What's up everybody, it's Mike Man WBA here, back again with another episode of CAW-reer Watch. We are back for episode 4, which means it is the 4th year of the save, 2021. So we are now here on the 1st of January 2022 for the end of year awards, as always. And for the first time, the winner of Wrestler of the Year goes to Bray Wyatt, the main eventer in the WWE. He's still there. Let's see what he's done. Got a strong friendship with Roman Reigns. Don't know if he starts with that. Probably does. Got a bit of an improvement, but other than that, nothing really new for Bray. If we have a look, he hasn't even won any championships. He's just apparently the #1 wrestler in the world. Company of the Year goes to New Japan yet again. Team of the Year, though, goes to John Cena and AJ Styles. Both of them in Impact. Styles currently out injured, actually, but both members of the Impact roster. Obviously, Styles used to be there, has now gone back. Cena has obviously just joined from the WWE. Match of the Year goes to Okada versus Tetsuya Naito from the Super Impact Tour in December. So right at the end. Just have a quick look at that if I can find it. It was on a Tuesday in December. Well, it must have been very good because Okada's had a good match there against the great Sasuke 2. Let's see, it was a Tuesday. Oh, here it is. Okada versus Naito got 100 on the Go Home show before the World Tag League, actually, which is interesting. So the World Tag League on the Saturday, which we'll take a look at that in a minute. Show of the Year goes to Money in the Bank, I think for the 2nd year in a row, maybe the 3rd year in a row, if I get that right. If I have a quick look at oh no, just the 1st year actually. I thought it won a couple of times, but apparently it's just the 1st time. The other 3 going to various New Japan shows. Young Wrestler of the Year went to another one of our cores. This time, though, it's not the answer. It is a 21-year-old Mr. Lidls, the first time he has won Young Wrestler of the Year. Veteran Wrestler of the Year went to John Cena. Female Wrestler of the Year went to Alexa Bliss for the 2nd time. Impact won Most Improved Company of the Year, which isn't a surprise when you see who's on their roster. I'll show you in a minute. Independent Wrestler of the Year went to Mr. Independent Colt Cabana. Manager of the Year went to Paul Heyman. Announcer of the Year Nigel McGuinness. Colour Commentator of the Year Vampiro. And Referee of the Year Mr. Nakagawa, who is in All Japan. So I'll just show you a quick look at the Impact roster, just because when you see who they've got, it's phenomenal. So their main event scene consists of John Cena, The Miz, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Kurt Angle, Dolph Ziggler, Jinder Mahal, EC3 and Lashley. And then they don't have a lot else for the rest of the roster, admittedly, but they've just got a phenomenal main event scene. They've stolen a lot of WWE's top guys, and they're doing quite well. If you look, 86 prestige, 87 momentum, 2nd in the world rankings. And also if you look at their admittedly very small women's division, you'll see they have got Paige, they have got, I think that's Sonya Deville, who's the current knockout champion, and they have got Bayley as well. And then if you look on their injury list, they have got a colour commentating Randy Orton, they've got an injured AJ Styles, and that's about it for guys from the WWE. But quite a good roster for Impact. WWE losing out on quite a few of their guys. They are international at the minute, though. They have been yo-yoing a little bit, but WWE still up there. A lot of NXT guys have come up and are doing quite well as well as some of the cruiserweights actually, like Tozawa. And Woods is actually having quite a good run as well, I believe. But enough of that. Let's get into our cause, and we'll start off with Arceus Nick, current main eventer on a pay-per appearance deal in DDT, ranked number 41 in the Power 500. No new tag teams, but if you notice, he does have a very strong dislike of his former tag team partner, Ryan McAvoy. They teamed up in, I think it might have been in DDT, but they had a falling out backstage and they now do not get along. If we take a look at his match history, we see a very good year for him. 58 wins, 3 draws and 36 losses, with a highest match rating of a 98 A-star, which we'll have to try and find that in a minute. Oh, it's here actually. Losing to Shibata. Obviously had been touring with All Japan at some point in the year, which actually took him off a lot of DDT's shows. He was only there for the DDT pay-per-views by the look of it, and had a 98, losing out to Katsuyori Shibata at an All Japan event. Shibata, I believe, went from being the IWGP champion, the heavyweight champion, and while he was champion left to join All Japan on a written deal and pretty much immediately won their title, I think in his 8th match with the company. But yeah, so a good match there for Nick, and a good year, good ratio in terms of his win-loss. If we have a look at his title matches, we see he's had a couple. Unfortunately, went to a no contest alongside his partner Yohei against Andy Wu and Madoka. I'm assuming that's for some All Japan tag team titles. Then defeating my favourite wrestler in the world, Jimmy Wang Yang, for the King of DDT title, which I think is a tournament. Yeah, King of DDT tournament. So he won that King of DDT tournament in July. 2 more losses for the All Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles, but this time against Naoki Tanizaki and The Answer. And then actually losing to Jimmy Wang Yang in his attempt to take the King of DDT Openweight title from him. So a fairly good year for Nick. Unfortunate in his tag team title opportunities and his King of DDT Openweight title, but did win that tournament in July, so not all bad for him. We'll move on to Damon Colt. No new tag teams for him. As we see, he is a main eventer in AAA. He's on a written deal. Currently ranked 162nd in the world. If we take a look at his match history, we see not a lot of matches for him. Just 21 all year, so just under 2 a month. Which, what isn't great. It's what do you expect when you're not touring like the likes of Nick. At the end of the day, 21 matches in a written company where they do 1 show a week isn't terrible, but not what he was used to. If we look at sort of 2019 look, we see the amount of matches he had then compared to what he's at now. Just doesn't compare, but 17 wins and 4 losses is a very good year. If we have a look at his title matches, sorry, his highest rating being an 86 against Volador Jr., winning by DQ. So not the greatest of ratings, but AAA don't have a fantastic roster. It's not that strong. There's a couple of good guys, but they're not really a massive powerhouse. And we see just the 1 title match this year, actually, which he did win, defeating La Mascara for the Copa Antonio Pena Trophy title. I have no idea what that is, but it looks like it is a tournament. So Damon Colt won that tournament, getting an 80 in that match. So a fairly decent year for him, just not as busy as some of the others. Next up, we have Jay Black, also in AAA, but only in upper mid. 244 in the power rankings for him. Still no tag teams or any other kind of relationships. If we look at his match history, we see slightly more matches actually than Damon Colt got in the upper mid card. 30 matches in total, 23 wins and 7 losses, so still a very good showing for him. You see actually a couple of 6-man tags with Damon Colt, so they've been teaming up a little bit. If we look at his title matches, we see he's had quite a few. He was actually the Campeonato Crucero in AAA, that their champion. Got a couple of retentions of that. Actually held it for most of the year, losing it in November to Alhijo de Dr. Wagner in a 71. So not a terrible match, but not as good as we know that Jay Black can do. Also had a couple of tag matches by the looks, and winning the AAA Lucha Libre World Cup 6-man tag titles, which I believe someone else won last year, if I'm not mistaken, or potentially a different World Cup, but I'm pretty sure someone won one last year. Jay Black has won one this year alongside Negro Casas and Volador Jr., defeating Drago Argenis and Mascara de Bronce. Actually his best title match of the year. And we see here actually that Los Hal Brothers defeated Black and Mascara de Bronce by disqualification. And I don't know who Los Hal Brothers are. I'll see if I can look. That's Averno and Chessman Los Hal Brothers. You didn't see it here, but it popped up on my other monitor for some reason. Their names there. But 82 being his best performance of the year, when La Mascara and Black defeated the War Machine, which is Gotita de Plata and Supernova. I can't see who that is. I was trying to see if that was Nova as in the one that used to be in WCW, ECW, WWF, all of that. But so not the best year for Black. Actually, no, quite a good year for Black actually, when you think about it. You look at that, he held that title for well over a year. 16 defences. Unfortunately though, just dropped off massively in the Power 500. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's just the lack of matches. But gone from 103rd to 244th this year, despite having about 7 or 8 retentions of that title this year. So he'll probably be a little bit disappointed in that. Next up, we have Ligeramente Divertido, the luchador. I don't think he's flabby anymore actually. I'll double check in a minute, but I'm pretty sure he's no longer flabby. He is a written upper mid-carder in CMLL, still got that phenomenal psychology. Number 87 in the Power 500. Still just that one tag team with Nathan Coulson. We'll take a quick look at his match history. We see that in 33 matches this year, he has 23 wins, 1 draw and 9 losses, with his highest match rating being a 97A star, which was here when Caristico and Mystico defeated Gran Guerrero and Divertido. So I believe that is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's one of the old Sin Cara, both of the old Sin Caras maybe? Or just one of the old Sin Caras and someone else? I'm not sure. I think it's 2 of the old Sin Caras. Or the old Sin Cara and the now Sin Cara. I'm not sure. But one title match for Divertido this year. It was a 6-man tag team match, which went to a draw when Diamante, Rush and... Oh no, it wasn't a draw, sorry. It was just a count-out victory. But Diamante, Rush and Al Cuatrero defeated Gran Guerrero, Divertido and Al Soberano. It doesn't say what title it was for. Oh, CMLL World Trios. So yeah, one shot at the Trios title, which unfortunately he did not win. But that's it for Divertido this year. A fairly solid year, but nothing too exciting. Next up, we have Mr. Lidls, and he is a written main eventer in New Japan. Just that one tag team with the answer. Number 18 in the Power 500 this year for Lidls. Fairly decent pop around the world. If we look at his match history, we see that back up to a lot of matches now, with I think 90 matches all year, with 49 wins, 5 draws and 36 losses, so a good year for him. Sort of fairly even in terms of wins, losses, just edging it with the wins. His best match being a 96A star in a victory over Okada just before destruction in Hiroshima. If we have a look at his title matches, we see he had 3 title matches this year, 2 of which were when he was still in Dragon Gate, losing twice to Katsuhiko Nakajima for the Open the Dreamgate title, and also losing a 6-man tag match when Naito, Ishii and Omega defeated Lidls, Tanahashi and Okada to retain the Never Openweight 6-man tag team titles. So probably the 6 most over guys in the company, and it only got a 79, which is bizarre when you think about it. But maybe there's a couple of people in there that just don't don't click or something, because, or maybe the tag teams didn't click, because you'd think that match would get a lot better, unless maybe now Tanahashi and Ishii are sort of getting a bit old to be putting consistently good performances. But a solid year for Lidls. Was that it? I think, yeah. So left Dragon Gate in August to join New Japan. Went out in the first round of the G1, because the G1 is obviously done differently in this game. It can't be simulated properly. So Omega knocked him out in the first round. But a good year for Lidls. He's climbed from 85 and 86 in the previous 2 years up to 18th in the world rankings. So I think he can be happy with that. Next up, we have Nathan Coulson, still on paper appearances deals, currently with Lucha Underground and PWG, but I believe he's worked elsewhere this year as well. He's an upper mid in Lucha Underground and a mid carder in PWG, so you have to argue probably the least successful in the companies he's in, if that makes sense. He still has those 2 tag teams and has a stronger dislike of Tyler Bateman. They have obviously not been getting along on some, I think, PWG shows. If we look at his match history, we see 101 matches for Coulson this year. 59 wins, 2 draws and 40 losses is pretty good. Highest rating of a 94A, which, if we have a little scroll down, is here in New Japan, interestingly, against Cody, when Cody defeated Nathan Coulson on a New Japan tour, just after the New Japan Ring of Honor Rising show in Japan. And it looks like his New Japan tour ended in April, and then he went on an All Japan tour for a couple of months, and that ended in October by the looks of it. So if we have a quick look at any title matches he's had quite a few. I think he started the year with a title, possibly, maybe not, but so we start off in the first week of January. He had 2 title matches actually. NLG and Bushi and Marty Scurll going to a time limit draw with Ishii, John Hennigan and Wild Sparrow. I'm assuming that's for the Never Openweight 6-man tag team titles. Next up, Bushi and Marty Scurll at Wrestle Kingdom defeated Blackout, which was Coulson and Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. They retained. Next up, The Answer Okada and Kushida defeated NLG and Bushi and Marty Scurll for the Never Openweight 6-man titles. So that's right, he started the year with the 6-man titles, lost them to the team of The Answer, Okada and Kushida at NJPW Presents CMLL Fantastica Mania. I'm struggling to speak today. That was it for his New Japan tour. And then when he went to All Japan, he defeated Koji Iwamoto for the Triple Crown title. He then lost to The Answer for the AJPW Royal Road Tournament title. Then he was on the losing side of a fatal 4-way for the Lucha Underground Championship, with Phoenix defeating Evans, NLG and Prince Puma. He then defeated The Answer to retain his Triple Crown title. Then him and Hiromu Takahashi lost to Naoki Tanizaki and The Answer for the AJPW World Tag Team titles. And then he lost in another fatal 4-way against La Mariposa for the Lucha Underground Championship. For some reason, it seems like the Lucha Underground Championship is only being defended in fatal 4-ways. I'm not sure why that is, but it just appears to be happening a lot. So a fairly decent year for Coulson. Two title wins, 1 draw where they retained, and 6 title losses. But a positive year in total. He's been in a couple of companies, had a lot of shows, had a very decent average rating, especially considering I don't think some of the PWG guys are that great. I'll see if I can look it up. PWG, yeah, not the best matches in PWG. He's only actually had 4 matches for them all year. Has won all of them. If we look at Lucha Underground, 4 wins and 10 losses in Lucha Underground, so not great in Lucha Underground. He might have to have words with them about maybe getting his momentum up a little bit. But I think that's it for Coulson as we move on to Richard Dunsmore. And we find he's finally doing something decent in this save. He's a touring main eventer in New Japan, and he's a pay-per appearance main eventer in NGW, which I'm sure will probably annoy him in some way, because I don't think he's a great fan of NGW. But if we look at his match history, we see 40 wins, 4 draws and 28 losses is a very respectable record. A highest match rating of a 93. We'll take a quick look at where that's come from. I've seen a couple of 92s. Here we go, 93, when he defeated the Great Sasuke #2 in the first round of the Super J Cup. Average rating of 76 is decent. His lowest rating, a 36D-, I'm assuming came on an independent show, probably at the start of the year. Oh no, here it was on a NGW show when Joseph Connors defeated Dunsmore, Dora Diablo and Musk. I'm sure that will doubly piss him off because he lost to Joseph Connors. But 93A is a very decent rating for a highest match rating. And we have a look at his title matches. We see that Sam Bailey defeated Nathan Cruz and Dunsmore to retain the NGW Gen X League title. That was in June. All of his title matches actually after June, which is interesting. Then Sam Bailey and Lewis Gervin defeated Sam Wilder and Dunsmore to retain the NGW Tag Team titles. He then defeated Jay White in the finals of the New Japan Super J Cup, winning that for, I believe, the first time. He then lost to Dave Mastiff for the NGW Undisputed title in a triple threat match. Lost to John Hennigan for the IWGP Intercontinental title. I don't know why I said junior. Then, alongside Tetsuya Naito and Cody, he defeated the Great Sasuke. I think that's Great Sasuke #2, I would assume. Bad Luck Fale and Orchid for the Never Openweight 6-man titles. Then lost to Dave Mastiff for the NGW Undisputed title again in a fatal 4-way. lost the World Tag League alongside his partner Cody against Omega and Okada in the World Tag League, and then Naito, Dunsmore and Cody defeated Hennigan, Goto and Okada to retain that never openweight 6-man title right at the end of the year. I'm not sure who this Orchid is. I assume it's actually a newly generated worker. Taika Orchid. If that's a real person, let me know. But I've never heard of them before, personally. But a good year, finally, for Dunsmore. He's shaken off the problems of his early career. I believe that's the most matches he's had in a year. Yeah. So he had 47 matches the previous year. He got a tour with Dragon Gate. Had no matches a couple of years before that. But yeah, finally getting to New Japan. Did actually finish off the year. Start off the year in Dragon Gate. I'm really struggling to talk today. I don't know what the problem is. But NGW picked him up. Had a couple of average matches for them. But then finally went to New Japan, and you just see his ratings in New Japan compared to his matches in NGW, and you see once you have some decent workers to work with, they can throw out some phenomenal matches. Is actually in a tag team with Cody, so that'll be why they did so well in the tag league. Interesting to see what his thoughts would be on that partnership with Cody. Next up, we have The Answer, 2-time former Young Wrestler of the Year. Didn't win it this year. Is number 36 in the Power 500 and is currently a pay-per appearance main eventer in both DDT and BJW. Still just that one tag team. And if we look at his match history, we see that in 63 matches this year, he finishes with a record of 43 wins, 1 draw and 19 losses, with a highest match rating of a 95 A-star, which came here in the same match that I... Actually, it wasn't the same match that Arceus Nick had in the final, because it was against Shibata. But The Answer and Naoki Tanizaki teaming to defeat Arceus Nick and Shibata in a 95 A-star. As you see, he did tour for a while with All Japan, that tour ending in October. If we have a look at his title history, we see he's had a couple of title matches, when the first one being that 6-man tag where himself, Okada and Kushida defeated NLG, Bushi and Skull for the never openweight 6-man titles. They never defended it. I think his tour actually ended in January in New Japan. Yeah, so he won it in his last match in the company and then immediately dropped it when he left the company. Next up, the team of Naoki Tanizaki and The Answer defeated Iwamoto and Skywalker for the All Japan World Tag Team titles, defending that against Arceus Nick and Yohei, Minio, Fujita and Yoshitsune. I've said that probably horrifically wrong. Then defeated Arceus Nick and Yohei again, and then NLG and Takahashi. So not only did he leave New Japan with the never openweight 6-man titles, it looks like he left All Japan with the World Tag Team titles. Also defeating Coulson in the final of the Royal Road tournament, but losing to him for the Triple Crown title, and then losing to Kenta for the World Strong Heavyweight title in BJW. So a good year for The Answer, actually. Left 2 companies, both while holding the title, and also winning that Royal Road tournament. Also, by the looks of it, lost the KOD Openweight title in DDT in January. I don't know if that was due to injury, maybe. Let's have a look. Yes, actually did get injured. Had a sternoclavicular separation at the end of January, which is why he dropped that. So that's probably why he dropped the New Japan title as well. Oh yeah, if you see, he didn't have a match between January and May. So maybe his tour with New Japan wasn't supposed to end in January, and actually had to drop it due to injury, which is unfortunate. but doesn't say if he got injured by anybody. But yeah, unfortunately, the answer, losing 2 titles due to injury, but then gaining the All Japan tag titles and having to drop them when his tour ended, as well as winning that Royal Road tournament. So a good year for him, you have to say. And I think that's everything for him. Next up, we have The Who is currently a written main eventer in Ring of Honor. I think our first Ring of Honor appearance of the series. As we see, he's number 76 in the Power 500. No relationships for him. He is a flabby middleweight. He complains still that it's my fault. I'm not convinced it was. It probably was. But if we see a fairly disappointing year for him, he went from having almost 80 matches last year to having just 19 this year. Obviously signed for Ring of Honor right at the start of the year by the looks of it. Went 9 wins, 1 draw and 9 losses. So a very, very mixed year. But very consistent. As you see, his highest match rating being an 88 and his lowest only being an 80. Which I think is the lowest rating we've had, if that makes sense. So his highest matches coming against Jay Briscoe twice, and in a loss against Alex Shelley for the ROH World Heavyweight title. Had 2 matches against Shelley actually for that title. And there is only title matches of the year by the looks of it. Yeah, just those 2. And you see, actually, interestingly, defeated Prince Devitt at ROH Final Battle at the end of the year. So that's another person who's left WWE. In Finn Balor, he's joined at Ring of Honor. But a good year for The Who performance-wise, but maybe not appearance-wise. And definitely not title and success-wise. Did actually go on a winning streak here of 7 matches by the looks of it, and only had 9 matches in the whole year. So didn't win all year until May, which is fairly disappointing. But he's still holding in there in terms of the power rankings. That's not what I want. I want title history. Was 59th last year though, so he has dropped off a little bit. He'll be working to win a title in Ring of Honor soon. Next up, we have Trip Kendrick, an upper mid-carder in Siam Alal. No new tag teams for him. Number 139 in the Power 500. And if we look, we see he has had 24 matches this year, with 15 wins, 1 draw and 8 losses, with a highest match rating of an 89, which actually the same situation that Divertido had. It's a tag team against Caristico and Mystico. I think it was a different tag match though. Getting an 89. If we have a look, see if he had any title matches this year, we see he's had 2 shots at the CMLL World Trios, but lost both of them to Diamante, Rush and Al Quatrero. But a fairly decent year for Trip Kendrick, but there's nothing really to report home about. Hopefully he will be winning a title next year. And finally we come to Wild Sparrow, currently a main eventer in DDT and touring with All Japan, number 24 in the Power 500. Just that one team with Jay Lethal. And if we look at his match history, we see that a fair amount of matches for him, 82 in total, with a highest match rating of a 98 A-star, which is that our highest, or have we had a 99 yet? I think that might be our highest. I'll have to double check at some point. But a 98 A-star, which makes me believe he was in probably New Japan at the start of the year. He was, and I was right. Oh, that's a 97 actually. A 98 here in a double count-out with John Hennigan on an end of days tour, getting a 98. That's phenomenal. There's a couple of 97s against Okada as well. So a very good start of the year for Sparrow. Left then, went to Noah, then went to All Japan touring as well. He's had a couple of title shots this year, losing in going to a draw in that 6-man title match in New Japan to NLG Bushi and Marty Scurll. Then next up, losing in the match to Tenzan and the Next Generation, which is Evil and Sanada. So actually Naito going against his two sort of stablemates. Sorry, it's not Sanada, it's Hiromu Takahashi. I got the wrong member of LIJ there. So Tenzan, Takahashi and Evil defeating Naito, Hennigan and Sparrow. And then defeating Hennigan, Omega and Sparrow as well. So Hennigan and Sparrow changing tag partners for that one, but still coming up short. Before then, Hennigan and Sparrow defeated Bushi and Scurll for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. That came at the end of February. NJPW Ring of Honor Rising Japan. And when did his tour end with Japan? His tour ended with Japan at the end of April by the looks. And just didn't defend the titles once. So that's another title that's been dropped without losing. I think he's done that a couple of times now. Sparrow, a couple of maybe 3 or 4 times. I think this one, and this one all lost without retaining, and maybe these two as well. But we see just consistent increases for Sparrow, just winning a lot of titles. He's won a title every year so far, which I think is the only person to have done so. Very impressive for him. Probably, even though he's not on a written deal yet, he's probably I'd have to say he's in the lead at the minute. Lidl's is obviously ahead of him in terms of the Power 500 at the minute, but if you look at it, titles just not as successful as Sparrow. So I'd say the top 3 for me after 4 years would have to be Lidl's for winning Young Wrestler of the Year this year, The Answer for winning it 2 years in a row, as well as winning a couple of titles, and also Wild Sparrow just for his continued title success. But that's all for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys on Wednesday for the 2022 review, which is Year 5. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon.